Hello friends. Today we're taking a look at Romans chapter 12, verses 12 through 21. We're going to complete the 12th chapter of Romans, and this chapter is just full of practical advice, isn't it? I like the way William Barclay titles this section of his commentary on the book of Romans. He entitles it, "The Christian Life in Everyday Action." I like that. He writes, here Paul presents his people with 10 rules for ordinary, everyday life. So it's a very practical section. So let's just get right to those 10 rules. Number 1, love must be completely sincere. It must be without hypocrisy, no play acting when we love one another. It should be genuine and authentic. Rule number 2, we must hate what is evil and cling to what is good. Number 3, we must love each other. Why? Because we are members of one family. Number 4, we must outdo one another in showing honor to one another. There's no place for us to insist upon our rights or our privileges or our place. We are other-centered human beings. Our concern is for others. Number 5, we must be industrious in the Lord's service. We must not lag in zeal. There's no room for lethargy in the Christian life. Number 6, we must keep our spirit at boiling point. I like that. We Christians have a fire in our bones. We are aflame for Christ. Rule number 7, we must be devoted to the Lord's service. Yes. Number 8, we must rejoice in hope. Hey, hope is what sustains us in all of our undertakings and all that we do. It is hope that keeps us on the right track. It brings us joy and happiness even in the midst of sufferings and hardships. Number 9, we must meet suffering with fortitude, or as my New Revised Standard Version says, we must be patient in suffering. Number 10, we are to persevere in prayer. We realize our continuous dependence upon the Lord, and that realization leads us to be steadfast in prayer. And then Barclay adds 2 more for good measure. Actually, I don't know why he said there were 10 rules. It looks to me like there might be 12. But number 11 is we are to share with those in need. We Christians are givers, not takers. And then number 12 is we must be given to hospitality. And of course in the first century that meant opening your home even to strangers who needed a place to stay, since there were no inns or hotels or motels that had good reputation in the first century. Then Paul offers us more practical advice that should govern our relationships in verses 14 through 21. Rule number 1, we are to bless those who persecute us. That is, we are to pray for God's blessing on them. We are to actively seek the good of even those who persecute us and mistreat us. Number 2, we are called to rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. We should be sensitive to others. We should be sympathetic to their joys and sorrows. Number 3, Paul writes that we are to live in harmony with one another. Don't you know Paul is concerned about genuine unity? He's advocating it. Rule number 4, we are to avoid all pride and snobbishness, Paul writes. Number 5, we are not to repay evil for evil and must not violate the world's standard of honor. Whatever is fair in the eyes of others is what we Christians are to be about. Rule number 6, if possible, so much as it depends upon us, we are to live at peace with everyone. And number 7, we are to keep ourselves from all thought of taking revenge. Why? Because vengeance is the Lord's, Paul writes. To punish evildoers is God's prerogative. Rather, we are to treat even our enemies with kindness, and in so doing we heap coals of fire on their heads, which I think has a reference to the fact that they might be remorseful that they might regret the way they've treated us. We are to treat them with kindness. So, there you go. Altogether, in just those a few verses, we've got 19 rules for everyday living. 19 rules for ordinary life. Of course, if we choose to live this way, our lives will be anything but ordinary. And the people around us will sit up and take notice, and God will be glorified. And that's what we're after, isn't it? God bless you all.